For the event in July, we've got 350 manufacturers coming from all over the world. Now, our tagline is "We bring the world to you." And I really find this quite extraordinary still, that instead of our retailers and our wholesalers and those involved in the fashion and accessories and homewares industry having to travel the globe, we actually bring selected manufacturers from all around the world to the International Convention Centre in Sydney for 3 days.
Hello and welcome. I'm Elizabeth Formosa, the founder of Fashion Equipped and devourer of all things fashion, business and mindset. In this podcast, I'm speaking with thought leaders, change makers and entrepreneurs about the business side of fashion and everything in between. Fashion Business Mindset is your front row seat to real stories from designers, brands, entrepreneurs, makers and mentors. We'll discuss how to launch and grow a fashion business and give you insider access to the future of fashion. So let's do this together and ensure that you're equipped to make the fashion business your business. My guest today is Marie Kinsella, the CEO of the International Exhibition and Conference Group. As former Managing Director and founder of Australian Exhibitions and Conferences, Marie commenced in the events industry in 1989. In 1997, as a sole operator, Marie launched Australian Exhibitions and Conferences in the heart of Melbourne. Within 14 years, the company became one of the largest Australian-owned trade fair and event organisers, with more than 45 staff. In 2011, the company was sold to a multinational public company. Today, as CEO of the International Exhibition and Conference Group, Marie and her team conduct around 8 major trade shows annually. One of those being the Global Sourcing Expo, which is coming up in Sydney in July and Melbourne in November. During our chat, Marie and I dive into the many benefits of attending the Global Sourcing Expo, such as being able to access over 350 suppliers, from small to large-scale manufacturing, right here on our doorstep in Australia, and exploring new and innovative supply chain solutions, developing and sourcing new products and categories, and expanding your network and connecting with industry. We also dive into who should attend, how to navigate the expo, opportunities to exhibit, shifts in the sourcing landscape, the expo's global seminar series, which offers access to a dynamic lineup of industry thought leaders and change makers, free workshops, and so much more. For those who are committed to delivering optimal business results, the Global Sourcing Expo is a must on the annual calendar. By attending this event, you'll not only become equipped on a global sourcing level, but you'll also continue to increase your knowledge bank on your responsible business journey. And together, we can collectively continue to drive positive change in the fashion industry. So let's dive in. Just an update, post-recording this podcast, I found out that due to unforeseen circumstances, I now won't be able to travel to Sydney to deliver my seminar in person. However, the good news is that you'll still be able to attend my seminar on the day and view the Conscious Fashion Blueprint virtually. All of the updated details will be on the Global Sourcing Expo website. Marie, welcome to the Fashion Business Mindset podcast.
Hi, Elizabeth. Great to see you.
Yeah, you too. Marie, to set the scene, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and just share some insights into your journey in the lead up to becoming CEO of the International Exhibition and Conference Group?
Well, I will. Thanks, Elizabeth. Look, I have worn many hats. I started off in education and then I discovered travel and decided I had to be a flight attendant forever. And after a few years, I then gave that away and started in the exhibition industry, where I just caught this absolute bug, and I love the buzz of live events and the interaction on a trade show floor. So I started that in 89. I then started my own business in 97. I sold that off in 2011 to a multinational. And then I came back and started all over again. After 4 years of garden leave, I came back and started in 2015 and set up International Exhibition and Conference Group. So I think that exhibitions, face-to-face marketing are the best way to produce results for companies, whether it be sales or developing leads, and it's just a marvellous environment.
There's a couple of things you mentioned there that I didn't know about you. Flight attendant.
Yeah, I used to work for the old TAA. I don't know if many of you people know TAA. And then it became Australian Airlines before Qantas bought out the domestic airline.
Yeah,
So,
amazing.
I left in 89. I actually taught flight attendants because I'd come from a teaching background. I taught flight attendants as well. So that was a few decades ago, Elizabeth.
Well, it all makes sense now that you're so worldly and you've got this global organisation, and the garden leave as well. I love that. You had a bit of garden leave.
That's right. I was out for 4 years before I came back.
Always nice to have a little career break, I think, at some stage, going at, the level and capacity that I'm sure you have over many, many years.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's dive into your role as CEO of such a large organisation. Can you talk us through a typical day in your role? What are your key responsibilities? How do you manage your team, stakeholders in the business, and curate like these quite significantly, sized events?
Yeah, look, no day is the same. And due to the impact of COVID, we had to downsize our business by about 50%. So it means I'm more hands-on, particularly in the area of marketing, because the whole marketing aspect is the cornerstone of the success of our events. So I am quite hands-on there. We work in a high-pressure environment because our shows have to go on. We can't say, look, we're not quite ready. Can we push this back a week? So there's an enormous amount of pressure in our work environment. And my role really is to just assess the pressure, try and release some of that pressure, and really to monitor those stress levels, because it is, as you say, organising these major events, particularly the International Sourcing Expo, the Global Sourcing Expo. There's many, many challenges and quite a lot of hurdles. So I work closely with the staff to make sure their well-being is okay, and that we're keeping fairly much a lid on the stress and environment that we find ourselves in. So certainly developing the capabilities and the opportunities of the staff is really important to me, as is having a really inclusive environment, an inclusive team environment. So we manage through a whole range of trade shows. The Global Sourcing Expo is just one of many that we do. In fact, we've come off one 2 weeks ago. We're going into another one at the end of this week before we set up for the sourcing fair in 4 weeks. So it's go, go, go here.
I don't know why I thought that, you and your team were exclusive to our industry.
No, not at all.
Pull back the curtain and it's like you're all over, like so many different industries, so many different events. And
yes, we are.
Yeah, and as you said, the show must go on. So it's not like, something happens and you can postpone the start of these events. They're scheduled. There's hundreds of people involved, exhibitors and visitors. And so, no doubt the pressure is on. And as you touched on during COVID, it was one of the most highly impacted industries, of course, being predominantly physical events that you are running and hosting. So we're very, very excited that the Global Sourcing Expo is back, and not just one this year. We have two on the calendar. So we have the Sydney event in July, and then we've got Melbourne in November. So let's talk about the upcoming Global Sourcing Expo. And can you tell us a little bit about the format, what we're going to expect from this event, who's exhibiting, what's the dynamic like?
Look, it's pretty amazing, actually. As you mentioned, we've run this event traditionally in November. It's been a very successful event where we've had up to 600 companies coming from around the world to exhibit. And Sydney, even though I'm a Melbourne girl, is seen as the gateway to Australia. And there's always been interest in the Sydney market in particular. So it was really pressure from a lot of the manufacturers overseas to say we want to be in Sydney as well. We see it as in a different environment to the Melbourne environment. So we were formerly the International Sourcing Expo. We changed the name to the Global Sourcing Expo to better fit what we're really presenting. And for the event in July, we've got 350 manufacturers coming from all over the world. Our tagline is "We bring the world to you." And I really find this quite extraordinary still, that instead of our retailers and our wholesalers and those involved in the fashion and accessories and homewares industry having to travel the globe, we actually bring selected manufacturers from all around the world to the International Convention Centre in Sydney for 3 days. So you can imagine that all you have to do is either fly into Sydney for the day or leave your office in New South Wales to drive into Darling Harbour to see the most extraordinary range of offerings of manufacturing capability from all over the world. And the countries that we've got this season exhibiting, of course, we've got China, but we've also got India in quite a big way. And we've got manufacturers from the States, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Hong Kong, Japan, Korea, the Philippines. That's just to name a few. And they're really showing their manufacturing capabilities to the Australian and New Zealand market. And there's not just huge manufacturers there that want very large volume orders. There's also smaller manufacturers who come and participate in this event. So, yeah, we're really excited about July.
I mean, you've just articulated it beautifully, like bringing the world to you, our audience, and I couldn't agree more. It's just such a unique opportunity, not having to leave Australia and having all of these amazing suppliers at our fingertips. As you said, over 350 across multiple different countries, so many different categories, capabilities. You know, you're able to discover new innovation, new techniques, new supply chain solutions. It just goes on and on. And of course, participating in these events, you know, it is connecting with industry. So what a great opportunity to expand your networks and connect with industry. I think, you know, over the last few years, we've certainly had a bit of a reduction in the amount of industry events that we do have that specialize, you know, in fashion, in merchandising, in products. And so I would say to our listeners, don't miss this one. This should be on your calendar every single year. And even going to both, you know, if you're based in Melbourne, you know, what's traveling to Sydney compared to having to go to an offshore location and vice versa, because you'll most likely get something different out of both of those expos. So I just think that, you know, it's a commitment to our businesses and an opportunity not to be missed. As most of, you know, our clients and community know, Fashion Equipped has been at this expo every single year. If it's not been us exhibiting, which we did for many, many years, probably just right up until pre-COVID, I've been participating in the Global Sourcing seminar. So I absolutely love connecting with this community. So certainly not to be missed. So Marie, let's kind of reinforce who should attend this expo and why should people attend it. Let's just recap that.
So look, if you have a brand or you're a wholesaler, you can be a large retailer or a small to medium enterprise or even a startup, you really should come to this event. And you'd say, well, what sort of roles, what sort of titles should be coming to these events? If you're a sourcing manager, a general manager, a brand manager, or a designer, it's just a great opportunity, besides meeting 350 suppliers from around the world that have been vetted and selected, you can really find solutions to your supply chain, you can connect with industry, you can develop and source new products, you can really expand your network. And I think this whole connection with industry is critical. And that's where trade shows are fantastic, in that you can really have this rare opportunity to collaborate and to connect. And there's only so much we can do over the screen and so much we can do, you know, through over the phone, to actually meet and connect with these people, to ask experts about some of the problems that you have and the solutions that you require, and hear this face to face. It's really, you know, unrivaled. So such a short period of time that we have this offering, only 3 days. It's really important that people make this a priority in their days to come, because we all know how busy we are, and we can say, look, I'll put that off. I'll wait till November, or which, as you say, Elizabeth, will be quite a different event altogether, with a different array of manufacturers. So it's really worthwhile for particularly brands, particularly retailers and wholesalers, to come along and to try to really establish and grow their own networks.
Yeah, love it. So just to recap there, so whether you're a brand, you're a retailer, whether that's physical retail stores or e-commerce stores, a wholesaler, whether you're established and been in the industry for many years, or whether you're a startup or anything in between, there is something at this event for everyone. And I think an important thing you mentioned is that there are manufacturers that will do lower minimum order quantities. So it's not just, those who are looking at placing hundreds or thousands of units. I think that you've been very focused over the years, Marie, to ensure that there's a good dynamic of smaller scale manufacturers, because let's face it, in the Australian market, we're not the US, we're not Europe, we don't have the big volume behind us. There are certainly some retailers and brands that do, but the majority are more in that kind of mid, and there's a lot of startups in our industry. So there's definitely something here for everybody. So it's a matter of, showing up, scoping the expo, connecting, being very clear about what you're looking for. We always say, the magic happens when you prepare for these events. So you know what you're looking for, the capabilities, the kind of price points, the minimum order quantities that you're looking for, as a business. So the more informed and prepared you are, then the more efficient it's going to be when you are connecting. You know what questions to ask, what responses you're looking for. And because there are hundreds of exhibitors, you also want to move through the expo quite efficiently over the 3 days, because it can be a little bit overwhelming if you're new to these events.
It can. And I probably should mention, Elizabeth, the adjacent expo that we have is the China Clothing and Textiles Expo. And they have, I think, themselves about 350 companies who are exhibiting. So you can imagine it is overwhelming to actually see so many manufacturers at the centre itself, and preparation is the key. And we have the list of exhibitors on our website. You can sort of work out exactly who you would like to target, what countries you'd like to target, and you can work that out prior to coming on site. And I know you've always mentioned about preparation, and definitely that's the thing to do if you want to get the most out of this event. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more, because I've been going to trade shows for, 20 odd years, and I used to go overseas. So they were the big ones. Like I'd go to Vegas, I'd go to Las Vegas and go to the Magic Trade Show, and that is just, next level. And I just do remember in the early days, being kind of green and inexperienced, going to those expos, and I was working for big organizations where, they were expecting results. You've got to come back with some gold. But getting there and kind of wandering around aimlessly, for a couple of days, thinking, what am I actually doing? Like, who should I actually be talking to? Because you find once you start speaking to people, it's very time consuming. You might spend 20 or 30 minutes at one stand. And then you kind of walk away and you're like, that wasn't right for me. I probably that should have been a 5-minute conversation, not a 30-minute conversation. So it's kind of like it's like anything. It comes with experience. But we actually do have a sourcing expo checklist. So I'll put that in the show notes on this podcast. It's something we've developed and updated every year, I think, since we've been participating in the sourcing expo and sharing that with our community. And it's actually a 2-sided document where it's about preparing, right down from having your, if you're still using physical business cards, you have those on hand, to wearing comfortable shoes so that you can get through the 3 days.
Exactly.
Yeah, comfortable and fashionable shoes, of course. How to greet, how to communicate, building rapport before diving into all of the business stuff, building rapport, asking certain questions to really make that connection, right down to briefing in what you're looking for, your target cost of goods, the shipping and logistics. All of that is on our checklist. So I will definitely put that in the show notes, because this conversation just reminded me that we have that, and that we should be sharing it this year as well, because preparation is definitely key. And of course, if any of our audience have questions about whether this expo is right for them, you can certainly contact me. I'm accessible on DM and on email. So definitely ask the question. But whether you've already been doing expos for many years or whether you're new to this, we know, as we've said, it's going to be such a unique opportunity and should be on our calendars every single year. Now, it doesn't stop with the exhibitors, Marie. You've got some amazing global sourcing seminar series that you put so much work into every single year. What an amazing opportunity for visitors to, again, connect with industry, really spend some time on upskilling and education by listening to thought leaders and change makers in our industry, typically share an hour of their time on a certain topic. What have you got planned for us this year?
July's looking terrific. I'm really delighted with the lineup this year. There's topics such as sustainable fashion, AI in retailing, supply chain solutions, lessons learned in product development. We've also really focusing on the whole area of new technologies themselves. So for retailers, there's a couple of hard-hitting sessions that we really believe they should be in attendance just to see what's coming, to see what's new. We're delighted with the speakers. We've got Paul Zara, who's the CEO of the Australian Retailers Association. We've got a great session from Ian Bailey, who's the CEO of Kmart Group, which will be quite a fascinating seminar to be at. We've got the Future Laboratory presenting, Barry Wachowski. Now, he's presenting a report that hasn't been released in Australia before. So it's a trend report with a real focus on technology, in particular AI, and what's happening around the world in retail. And there's Australian Fashion Council speaking, and of course yourself, Elizabeth, speaking on circular fashion.
Cannot wait.
Perhaps you can let everyone know what you're speaking on about the tools that you're going to provide people who are starting on their journey.
Yeah, cannot wait. So I'm speaking on Tuesday, the 11th of July at 10 a.m. So I think I'm first cab off the rank, actually. I know.
Heading off.
No pressure at all. So my talk is the Conscious Fashion Blueprint. So I'll be sharing insights into responsible sourcing strategies. I'll be talking about what it means to be a purpose-led brand and how to really focus on making a positive impact. So during this talk, no matter what stage of business you're at, there'll be something in it for everybody. And it will be very much, practical strategies and empowering insights. So you'll walk away with something that you can actually apply to your business. We're working with clients every day of the week on their strategies, business strategies, from sales to marketing to sourcing to operations, you name it. So having a responsible business journey in place is a non-negotiable in our industry. This is not a nice to have, it is a must have. It's a non-negotiable. So working out what's applicable to your stage of business is very, very important. We know that we can't do everything in this space overnight. So we have to be, very practical about the way that we approach it. So I'll be taking you through that conscious fashion blueprint. You'll be able to walk away with something that's going to be very, very applicable to your business now and in the future. But I'll be definitely in the audience for the other seminars. I can't wait.
I've always said to you, Elizabeth, you always have a wonderful presentation with great takeouts for people. So I'd encourage your listeners to definitely come along and hear Elizabeth, because she's always a superstar and always draws the biggest crowds, I might add. So it's because the content's fantastic and the takeouts are also really, really worthwhile. Can I just add, for the first time, Elizabeth, this season we're having these new import-export workshops being presented by Carol Hanlon, and it's really interesting for those who are wanting to start on their journey, either exporting or importing, and she'll discuss and highlight areas of, the areas that you research, identify the risks that you should be aware of, focus on the government support that you can get there with the EMDG grants. So that's happening on the 12th and the 13th of July, the 2 days actually. Okay. So we encourage people who are considering starting off on this journey, whether exporting or importing, to come along to the free sessions. It's being held at the same time at Sydney Convention and Exhibition Centre.
Amazing. So maybe we can just take our listeners through how to register and how to book for these events. So just to let everyone know, you do need to register for this expo. So when you go to, we'll put all of the website details in the show notes. But Marie, what's the process? So basically registering for the expo, book into the seminars. Some of those are paid tickets, and then you've got some free workshops as well.
Yeah, correct. So you go to the website globalsourcingexpo.com.au, search through the seminars if you'd like to attend those. Those are only $40 plus GST. And then we have, in addition to that, the export and import workshops, which are free. So separately, you would register for the workshops themselves. You don't have to attend any of those educational sessions if you just want to spend the time exploring the exhibition. And simply by registering on the website, you have access. If you're in industry, it's only a trade event. It's not for consumers. Yep. It's a business-to-business event, which is free to attend.
Amazing. I love that you've got those workshops. I just think they're going to be absolutely invaluable. You know, if we think about where do we gain access to this information, you know, often it's you kind of learn as we go in business, but to be able to immerse yourself in a workshop like that, and it's free, and walk away with all of that information, especially around the grants that you've mentioned as well. Yes. We have a lot of people reaching out to us around grants and how to apply and, you know, whether they're eligible, all of those things. So yeah, it sounds invaluable. So why wouldn't you book in? Let's flip the switch a little bit now, Marie. Let's talk about the opportunity for exhibitors. So we've spoken about visitors and why to attend and who should attend. Let's talk about the opportunities for whether it's Australian businesses or anyone international that's tuning in to the podcast. What are the opportunities here around exhibiting? Who should be exhibiting? We know about, you know, some of the manufacturers you've profiled now, but from perhaps an Australian industry perspective, who's exhibiting? We know that cohort has grown over the last few years.
We really encourage Australian companies to exhibit. We want to showcase Australian manufacturing capability, and there's been such an increase in Australian-made products. So we've had a number of organisations exhibit in the past, and they've been able to connect with some of the other exhibiting companies who are based overseas, and they have partnered up with them to have support for their manufacturing base here in Australia. We encourage also wholesalers. A lot of brands exhibit because they want to connect with retailers, both in Australia and New Zealand. So it's a really great opportunity to accelerate the sales process, both in developing leads and in direct sales. So, as I said, Australian businesses we encourage for sure to exhibit. Without a doubt, the majority of the companies who exhibit are based overseas. There's hundreds and hundreds of companies who are based overseas. And what they want to do is to meet the key retailers. They want to develop their reach into Australia. They want to connect and collaborate with Australian companies. And so we're finding that Australia is becoming more and more popular as a destination for these overseas manufacturers. I think Australia is an easy place to do business. It's safe. There's a focus on sustainability and best practice. So we're really seeing a huge increase in Australia as not new markets, but an expanded market for so many of these internationals who see it as absolutely worthwhile to grow their base here through Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, if we just focus on the Australian kind of component for a minute, I think that there'll be a lot of people tuning in thinking, oh, wow, I didn't really know that this opportunity is available to me. So whether you are an Australian manufacturer, whether you are a service-based business in our industry. Yeah. So from our perspective, you know, we're a consultancy and we've been part of the expo for many, many years, really communicating because the visitors are our target audience. So they are established businesses, they're new businesses, and we service right across the board from a strategy perspective, project management. So, and our online course, Start Your Fashion Business for Startups. So very, very much in synergy with our ideal clients. So think about your business and who your clients are and think about whether the expo is aligned. So you might be a sourcing agent. You might be someone who helps with production management. We have a lot of businesses in Australia that are production management focused. So they are helping, they're that intermediary between supply chain and all of the work that has to go on, such as, you know, tech packs and design and all of those things to be source ready. The Australian Fashion Council, I know, has exhibited at,
Yes,
the Sourcing Expo in the past. You've had IP lawyers. So the list just goes on and on. So I think if there's any business out there at the moment thinking, could this be for me to exhibit as an opportunity, certainly reach out to Marie and her team.
I just wanted to mention that I met one of our exhibitors. I had quite a chat to one of our exhibitors in November last year when we were in Melbourne, and he has a multi-million-dollar business. He's a service company, and he said that he came to the event in 2016, attended every single seminar, has not missed one since, and he now exhibits. And his business is now a multi-million-dollar business, and he puts it down to this being the right environment for him, for his organisation, and for the lessons that he learnt. And I love hearing stories like that. His timing was perfect, I might add. And he also says there was a bit of luck involved, but he really has just taken off in this space. And he's a service-based company who is an Australian company.
Yeah, what a great example. What a great example. So I think anyone who thinks that this is in synergy with the audience that they want to connect with, then definitely get involved. Do you have capacity? Are you at capacity for July? Like, is the event filled from an exhibitor perspective?
We can always find space, Elizabeth.
Okay. You might be out the back in the broom closet, but you're...
No, it's not back in the broom closet, I promise. No, look, being a first time in Sydney, it's been challenging, but we've just been delighted with the response and the interest from overseas organisations. So it's also excited the market about November in Melbourne. Which traditionally has been our flagship show. But, Sydney's coming on, and there's a lot that's going to be happening in July. Yeah.
Well, there you go, everyone. There's still space. So jump in. If you see that this is an opportunity, jump in and grab your stand and, connect with industry. I also just wanted to mention that we also, as a business, get approached quite often by manufacturers based globally. So it might be someone based in India or China or Indonesia. And I'm always saying that they'll say, how do we grow in the Australian market? And I'm like, go and speak to Marie and her team. You need to be exhibiting at this event. So I think, again, for anyone in our industry that is connected, working in supply chain and perhaps has the same happening to them, lots of inquiries from perhaps, manufacturers wanting help to, build their business in the Australian market. This expo is an absolute, it's a no-brainer to be able to connect and build your business and be in the right place at the right time, if you are working in the manufacturing space. Marie, why is this expo so important to Australian international trade? We've touched on some of the key points, but what's the significance of this to Australian trade?
Look, we have terrific trade partners in countries, and they offer really high quality workmanship. They have sustainable practices, and they've got capacity with technology and innovation. And it just seems so important to be able to connect with these organisations to service our local retailers and wholesalers. And like a secure supply chain is vital. We know that. We saw it totally disrupted through COVID, and it's vital to the industry and the Australian economy. And we've got suppliers who are exhibiting they're reliable, they've been vetted, and they are wanting to connect with Australian companies. And it's just this golden opportunity for Australian organisations to really grow and develop their business. And it's an opportunity for brands that they can come and meet with a whole array of different companies, to really create what suits their brand and what their customers are requiring. We've got organisations that really focus, say, on intelligent fabrics, and we've got others that have got a really high quality company out of Japan that has been in the show a few years, and they have an extraordinary offering with plant-based materials and organic materials that are just mind-blowing and beautiful high quality. So I just think this can really expand the offering that brands here in Australia have by being excited about what's happening overseas and to see how they can integrate that into their offering.
I love that. I love that R&D component because, you're working in your bubble often on a daily basis, and you might have, your little portfolio of manufacturers that you've worked with for many years, and it's a very safe space. But until you're actually exposed to this world of what is actually coming down the pipeline in terms of new techniques, new technologies, or even artisans dozen techniques that you've never seen before,
Yes.
that have been around for decades, but you've not been exposed. It really is mind expanding, which means there's business growth, there's personal growth available. And I also like that you said about, the manufacturers being vetted. So it's a safer space than getting on a plane and going to China, for example, and, you're connecting with perhaps an organization that hasn't been vetted. There's no validity there. Are you in safe hands? There's always those nerves around starting business with a new entity. So being part of, as you said, these manufacturers have been vetted. There's a relationship there with the Australian fashion or the Australian industry. It gives you that kind of other kind of layer of sense of security, I guess.
Yeah, and look, of course, companies need to do their own due diligence.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of pavilions that participate, in particular from India and Bangladesh and Hong Kong. And the pavilions coordinate and select appropriate organisations. But we also have independents that come in here and just want to target directly the Australian market and New Zealand market. So we certainly encourage visitors to do their own due diligence on companies themselves, but they can be assured that there has been some vetting that has occurred prior to them exhibiting in the fair. So as you say, jumping on a plane, travelling the world with some recommendation, it's not the same as being able to talk directly face-to-face here in Australia with a company and understand what their offering is, knowing they've had some vet process or some vetting process.
Absolutely agree. Now, Marie, the sourcing sector has experienced some significant shifts in recent years. So in your opinion, what are the most noteworthy changes and trends that you've observed within the industry?
Well, the global trends towards sustainable fashion is obviously the biggest shift that we've seen, and it's rapidly changing and rapidly moving. I can feel it. I know that companies who are exhibiting are really focused on that whole area of sustainability. So fast fashion is obviously no longer supported in the same way. And I think consumers and retailers themselves are working to change it. Companies are looking for more ethical and environmentally sound partners. And so that's been, a really important part of the mix. And it's all to do with that corporate citizenship in fashion, which has really taken the spotlight. But as I mentioned, the interest in Australia itself from overseas countries has really grown in recent years. Australia has got a really safe economy. We value quality, we value sustainability, and it's easy to do business in Australia. And I think this is what our overseas exhibitors understand. And so they know that we've navigated the pandemic well, and we're open and ready to do business. The biggest shifts, definitely sustainability, definitely in this focus on ethical practices and that increase in Australia as a destination to do business has been significant.
I love that. I love that interest in, the Australian marketplace, and that, these manufacturers are ready and well poised to do business with us.
Yeah.
So, and of course, coming off the back of the last few years where we haven't had the opportunity to travel and to really work on our supply chain strategies, again, perfectly poised to go next level with our businesses. So, Marie, based on everything that you've experienced so far with hosting sourcing expos, what key advice or words of wisdom do you have for those who are looking to take their supply chain strategy to the next level?
Well, that's a really good question. I think there's two things. Collaboration and learning is really the key. You can't really get far when you're by yourself on your own. It's much easier to work in a partnership environment. There is an opportunity to connect and collaborate with these exhibitors at the Sourcing Expo. We've even got companies who focus on helping companies get to their next level in their sourcing strategy. So we've got companies exhibiting that can actually assist in that. The other area is in learning, to learn as much as you can about the organisation. As I said before, you've got to do your due diligence, and you've really got to assess these manufacturing companies and focus in on how transparent they are and look at their supply chain offering. And that all comes about by gaining as much information as you can, by asking the key questions. And I think the checklist that you outlined, Elizabeth, can really help with that. So it's collaboration and working in partnerships to take your sourcing strategy to the next level is really important. And you can do that easily on the trade show floor. And secondly is learning as much as you can, not just by how easy is it to do business in a particular country. Well, you can come to a number of the seminars at the Sourcing Expo and learn that. So it's really the two things, collaboration and learning. That's how you do it.
Yeah, absolutely love it. Collaboration, learning, connection with industry. It's time to step away from the screen and get back amongst it. We're just so excited that these events are back. So yeah, you just do not want to miss this. It is definitely time to show up and reconnect in real life. So Marie, in closing, what excites you most about the future of global sourcing?
Well, I love this show. I just get excited about the show itself, that we've been able to bring together an enormous cross-section of manufacturers from all over the world into one space in Australia under the one roof, where our wholesalers, our retailers, our big brands can come and connect. And I think there's something that it's almost tangible, the excitement on a show floor where there's new trends or new offerings, and there's just this buzz that you can really feel. And I feel that's definitely going to happen at our Sydney fair. There's great anticipation from the participating companies. And I think what else excites me is that it's not just the consumers, but it's the retailers and each of the wholesalers, but also the exhibitors that are all doing their bit about really helping change our world for it to be a more sustainable environment. And I think that's exciting, that these trade shows can really help push further that mission that we all have to create a more sustainable world. So I can't wait. It's in July. It's only 4 weeks away. And there's a lot to do beforehand, but it's going to be a great event.
Oh, just cannot wait. So let's go over those dates. So for Sydney, the dates are Tuesday the 11th through to the 13th of July.
Correct.
And then we have Melbourne coming up on Tuesday the 21st through to Thursday the 23rd of November. So definitely register, everyone. It's time to actually register for the Sydney Expo and then save the date for Melbourne. Cannot wait to be part of it. As Marie said, I'll be speaking in July, the Conscious Fashion Blueprint, and I'll also be hosting an industry panel in November. So for those who attended last year, you would have seen me hosting a panel last year. So expect more of that kind of caliber of speakers. So we always have an amazing lineup of really inspiring brands and businesses on our industry panels. So Marie, can't wait. It's an amazing job that you do for our industry with this just spectacular expo. As we've said many times, it's one not to be missed. I'll put all of the details in the show notes, including the checklist, so that everyone can prepare to optimize their results from attending this event. And if you are looking to exhibit, definitely reach out to Marie and her team, because she's going to find space for you in July.
I will.
And make sure you're well looked after. Thank you, Marie. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your time. And can't wait to see you in Sydney in July.
Thanks, Elizabeth. It's been great.
Thank you so much for listening to the Fashion Business Mindset podcast. We'd love to keep connected. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Fashion Equipped. And if you'd like to find out more about our Start Your Fashion Business program and your mentor collective, head to our website fashionequipped.com.au. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share this podcast with others, hit subscribe, leave us a rating and review. Let's do this together. Let's make the fashion business your business.
This is a Guide Your Light network production, creating podcasts with purpose.